With roles in more than 70 movies and TV series, Rock Hudson was one of America's most adored and controversial characters. He was well known for his acting skills, but more than that, people were curious about his personal life, particularly his sexual preferences. A new book examining his life and sickness, published more than 30 years after his death, uncovers previously unknown details about this Hollywood titan. Rough start. In Winnetka, Illinois, a tiny town north of Chicago, Rock Hudson was born Roy Harold Shearer, Jr., to auto mechanic Roy Harold Shearer, Sr., and housewife Catherine, who subsequently worked as a telephone operator. Roy Sr., his father, left him a few years after his parents separated when he was 4. Fortunately, these troublesome times would not last for long. Rock Hudson, schoolboy. Roy Jr. was legally named Roy Harold Fitzgerald after his mother. Wallace Fitzgerald, a former Navy officer, adopted him 3 years after his parents' divorce. Roy attended the esteemed New Trier High School, and his friends recalled him as a quiet, reserved boy who didn't back down from a demanding job. He worked as a golf caddy, delivered newspapers, and ran errands. But one job would put him on a course that would permanently alter his life. Starstruck. Hudson worked as an usher in a movie theater during his school years as the young teen escorted patrons to their seats in the dimly lit hall. The enormous black and white representations of Hollywood heavyweights like Humphrey Bogart, Bing Crosby, and Betty Grable loomed over him, their grand attire and glittering smiles calling out like lighthouses. Roy Harold Fitzgerald then decided he would also become a movie star. What's my line again? Roy Fitzgerald was determined to fulfill his ambition, believing that playing in school plays was the first step toward becoming an actor. However, that first step also served as his first obstacle. Young Roy could not recall his lines for the rest of his life. As a result, even though he passed auditions, he could never get a part and did not participate in any school performances. A new kind of problem, war, arose as soon as he graduated, even though the future star regarded this as a challenge to be solved rather than an insurmountable obstacle. World War II. In 1943, during World War II, Roy Harold Fitzgerald completed high school. Like his stepfather, he enrolled in the U.S. Navy and traveled to San Francisco after training at the Great Lakes Naval Training Station in North Chicago. He boarded the Lew Wallace troop transport there, transporting him to the Philippines. He worked as an aviation mechanic before returning to San Francisco and being released in 1946. California. Roy Fitzgerald's military duty delayed him in the South Pacific for over 3 years and prevented him from honing his acting career right out of high school. Still, it led him directly to California when it was finally finished. Roy docked at San Francisco and headed south to the City of Angels, Los Angeles. At the time, his father resided there. After moving in with him, Roy started working on realizing his aspirations. Getting rejected. When Roy arrived in Los Angeles, he tried to enroll in the dramatics department at the University of Southern California, but was turned down. Once again, he struggled to recall lines, but Roy didn't let it get to him since his passion was celebrity, not acting. Not an actor, a star. Roy famously said, "I don't want to be an actor," when trying to make a name for himself in Hollywood. "I want to be a movie star, and I don't care how many casting couches I have to lie on." Getting noticed. Roy had changed from a gangly adolescent to a handsome young man when he arrived in Hollywood and was aware of it. Roy was adamant about doing whatever was needed to get the major studios to notice and employ him. He would stand outside studios for hours daily in tight, faded jeans, hoping a producer or director would see his fantastic body. Big break. Roy has always worked hard and wasn't satisfied with waiting for someone to roll down their window at the door of a studio. Additionally, he had sent his pictures to several talent scouts, and soon after, the renowned Henry Wilson phoned him with an offer. With his prized representation came expectations. Henry Wilson was well known for his stable of beefcakes, strong, beautiful young men he would represent as an agent and get roles in the film business. Roy's stage name would have to be changed. Naming names. Henry Wilson believed a name change was necessary when he signed young Roy Fitzgerald as a client. Inspired by the Rock of Gibraltar and the Hudson River, two colossal, magnificent natural structures, Wilson christened Roy Fitzgerald, who would thereafter be referred to as Rock Hudson. Hudson later acknowledged that he didn't like the moniker. but he was determined to become a celebrity and was prepared to adapt it to get parts. First role. Rock Hudson made his acting debut with a modest role in the Warner Brothers picture Fighter Squadron in 1948, over 10 years after he first looked up to Hollywood movie stars in that dim suburban Chicago theater. However, he still had a long way to go before he became the star of later years. It took Hudson 38 times to deliver his one spoken line effectively in the movie, since he has struggled with line recall since high school. Would his just-launched career be unable to handle this challenge? Universal star. Hudson had trouble remembering his lines, but Universal Studios saw his promise and gave him a long-term contract. He received individualized acting instruction from the studio, which offered in-depth instruction in acting, singing, dancing, fencing, and equestrian riding. Film publications gave Hudson's photographs a lot of favorable coverage throughout his schooling. He was a well-known model. Others noticed him because of his captivating appearance and boundless charm. Small parts. While none of the roles were essential to the plot, Universal Studios gave Rock Hudson minor roles in the Army and adventure movies to get him started. He frequently played culturally relevant roles like an American Indian in Winchester 78 or an Arab raider in The Desert Hawk. Sooner or later, this would lead to more critical duties. Leading man. Hudson's first leading role was alongside Yvonne De Carlo, a tremendous actress at the time, in Scarlet Angel in 1952. Hudson would be given more challenging and prominent leading man parts over the next 2 years. Because of his success, Universal even lent him to other studios. However, his most important discovery was still to come. Magnificent Obsession. Magnificent Obsession, a 1994 movie, revolutionized everything. In the romantic drama, Hudson plays a spoiled playboy who meets the widow of the doctor who saved his life. Jane Wyman, one of Hollywood's most well-known female leads at the time, plays the widow of Ronald Reagan's first wife, and she has a life-altering experience. For her part in the film, Wyman would go on to get an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, although Hudson's performance was much different. He might need 40 or 50 tries to perfect in some situations, since he still had trouble recalling his lines. When Hudson encountered her at a party years later, he told her, "You were nice to me when you didn't have to be, and I want you to know that I thank you and love you for it." Wyman never once complained. Finally, stardom. After Magnificent Obsession, Hudson rose to fame in Hollywood. Moviegoers ranked Hudson as the 17th most popular celebrity in the country, even though he resumed making adventure pictures. At the same time, Modern Screen magazine named him the most popular actor of the year. It was Hudson. Everyone recognized that he was a celebrity, not an actor. However, his best cinematic accomplishments were still to come. Giant. Many people consider 1956 to be the pinnacle of Rock Hudson's career. Director George Stevens had invited him to play the lead in his epic western, Giant, with Elizabeth Taylor and James Dean. It was a courageous picture that criticized racism and American culture in general. It was a substantial economic and critical success and earned Hudson a nomination for Best Actor at the Academy Awards, the only one he would ever win. However, there were other reasons why the film was thrilling. Lover. Rock Hudson was more than a movie star. His charisma was more evident in person. His frequent interactions with the most beautiful individuals in the world at the time resulted in more than just cordial handshakes because of this and his then-secret bisexuality. According to subsequent reports, Hudson cultivated 2 love connections on the Giant set, one with James Dean and one with Elizabeth Taylor. Making mistakes. After Giant, Hudson was offered many roles in the most ambitious movies in the business. Unfortunately, for the first time, his career trajectory shifted from being up. Giant and his subsequent 2 films, Battle Hymn and Written in the Wind, helped him win the 1957 Oscar for Most Popular Actor in American Cinema, a position he held until 1964. His subsequent movie, Something of Value, didn't do well at the box office either. Hudson declined major parts in Sayonara, The Bridge on the River Kwai, and Ben-Hur, all of which were incredibly successful films. Although the movie he declined made cinematic history, A Farewell to Arms failed, forcing Hudson to reconsider his career decisions. Off-key. Hudson may have unintentionally restricted his ability to pursue stardom, which might have contributed to the modest decline in his career at this time. For a dazzling grin and a sensual voice, he had surgery to deepen his vocal cords and cap his teeth during his early Hollywood years. Unfortunately, one consequence was that Hudson lost his ability to sing, a common talent among leading men in Hollywood at the time. He would not, however, allow this to stop him from pursuing fame. Pillow talk. Hudson continued to be successful commercially, even if he had bet on the wrong horse with A Farewell to Arms. Hudson and Doris Day co-starred in the hugely successful 1959 film Pillow Talk. Although Hudson and Day had a strong on-screen connection and would go on to star together in several more tremendously popular films, their off-screen relationship was a little different. Eunice and Ernie. The most famous on-screen connection for both performers was that of Hudson and Doris Day. Despite Hudson's well-known sexual adventures, they maintained a platonic connection. He called her Eunice, and she called him Ernie, and they loved each other as friends but were never lovers, says the biography of Hudson. Decline. A lengthy run of failed, often terrible, romantic comedy films followed Rock Hudson's second wave of popularity. Others, such as Seconds from 1966, weren't acknowledged until many years later. He would never surpass his 1965 ranking as the nation's 11th most popular celebrity. Behind the scenes. Although Hudson's career started to fail in the middle of the 1960s, he dealt with problems from the early 1950s. In the 1950s, Rock Hudson was an active bisexual guy, which was a sexual orientation that was seen as scandalous and illegal when practiced. Hudson's agent, Wilson, had to pay them off to stop Confidential magazine from releasing an article on his hidden proclivities that they threatened to print in 1955. Hudson's agent believed that something needed to be done to persuade the public that Rock wasn't homosexual, even if Confidential didn't print the article. Nefarious rumors. In some trusted groups, Hudson's sexual orientation was a well-kept secret. Because so many of Hudson's admirers placed their appreciation on their attraction to him, the press was eager to publicly expose him, a move that would ruin his career and reputation. Hints and jokes in documents became more nefarious over time. In one particularly scathing remark, and there isn't a grain of truth to the vicious rumor that movie and TV star Rock Hudson and singer Jim Nelly were secretly married. Rock and Jim are just good buddies. I repeat, they are not married. They are not even going steady. Was written by Rona Boring, a gossip columnist for Mad magazine. Marriage. Wilson, Hudson's agent, concluded that Rock would have to marry to persuade the press that he was straight. Wilson arranged for Hudson to meet Phyllis Gates, his secretary, and attempted to convince him to wed her. Rock objected. "I don't love her and never will," he said. With a "marry her anyway," Wilson answered. An uneasy marriage. Phyllis Gates claimed in a later book that she and Hudson had married for love, but their real marriage was challenging regardless of the cause for their union. Hudson's habits were sloppy and untidy, and he felt lost when he wasn't being filmed. Gates remembered he hated golf and had no hobbies. The hardship in their marriage increased over the next several years. He said he felt like a lumbering jackass on a tennis court. Separation. Hudson stopped bringing Phyllis to premieres and parties after a year or so. According to reports, Hudson questioned his agent. "By now the whole town has seen I've got a wife. Isn't that enough?" After 3 short years of marriage, the couple divorced in 1958. Royal connection. Even royalty couldn't turn Rock down since he was a ladies' man while having male lovers. When Rock went to London to star in a play in 1976, according to his biography, he had a passionate fling with Princess Margaret. She made celebrity impressions for him, and they sang together. He found her great fun. Shock. During the 1970s and 1980s, Hudson appeared in many movies and TV shows. However, Nancy Reagan, the First Lady and close friend of Rock, saw a stain on his neck at a reception in 1984. When Rock saw a doctor, he received a sobering diagnosis. "You have AIDS, and there's no cure." AIDS is an incurable illness, unlike today. He had a year or so to live. Public stigma. Although AIDS is now a treatable illness, in 1984 it caused widespread fear and was highly stigmatized. Discussing it was forbidden since it was linked to homosexuality. Therefore, it was devastating for Hudson and his admirers when one of the biggest male celebrities in the world was diagnosed with it. However, it was also a chance to make a difference, giving a face to the disease. It took a great deal of courage to be the first famous person to come out as an HIV carrier. In addition to starting the lengthy process of destigmatizing the illness, a crucial first step in informing the public about the condition and encouraging research into a cure, Rock Hudson's decision to go public gave a cherished face to a terrifying sickness many were reluctant to discuss. Changing perceptions. When Rock Hudson revealed his illness, his fellow celebrities showed him great support and compassion. Although homosexuality and HIV/AIDS were still highly taboo at the time, it was obvious that Hudson's disclosure of his diagnosis would contribute to reducing the stigma associated with the illness. If Rock Hudson can have it, nice people can. It's just a disease, not a moral affliction. This was the first step in eliminating societal prejudice toward persons with HIV and AIDS, according to William F. Hoffman, creator of the Broadway play As Is. Celeb support. Hoffman wasn't the only one who spoke kindly and encouragingly to Hudson after his diagnosis. Celebrities from all over Hollywood came out to show their love and support for the actor because of the many lives he had impacted over his dazzling career. Stars like Frank Sinatra, Gregory Peck, Marlene Dietrich, James Garner, Carol Burnett, Ally McGraw, Jack Lemmon, Richard Dreyfuss, Ava Gardner, Mickey Rooney, Milton Berle, and Madonna sent Hudson encouraging telegrams shortly after he made his announcement. True courage. I couldn't get one major star to turn out when I hosted a benefit for AIDS 2 years ago, Rivers told People magazine, adding, Rock's admission is a horrendous way to bring AIDS to the attention of the American public, but by doing so, Rock, in his life, has helped millions in the process. What Rock has done takes true courage. Longtime activist Joan Rivers was one celebrity who saw a noticeable increase in public support for HIV and AIDS sufferers as a direct result of Hudson's announcement. His finest performance. Rock Hudson felt that his finest role was yet to come, even after his accolades and years of acting. One of his biographers said, Rock considered Dying with Grace to be his finest performance. When he could no longer hide it, he admitted that he had AIDS and put a beloved face to what was then a terrifying plague. Taking comfort. Unfortunately, Rock Hudson himself soon got too sick to attend the sickness charity events that were becoming more frequent. Even yet, Hudson might find solace in his influence, aiding several others in their battle against the disease. I am not happy that I am sick, he stated in a telegram to an AIDS fundraiser in 1985. I am not happy that I have AIDS, but if that is helping others, I can at least know that my misfortune has had some positive worth. Uniting Hollywood. He spent his final days looking out across his beautiful garden, the biography of Hudson continues, facing his demise with courage. His death united Hollywood against the disease that killed him, a legacy he could be proud of. He had loved so many men and women, he only wanted to be loved in return, and to be a star. Charitable giving. Hudson's experience was beneficial because he inspired many people and helped spread awareness of HIV and AIDS worldwide. Additionally, he put his money where his mouth is by contributing $250,000 to the Foundation for AIDS Research. Since then, the global nonprofit organization has continued to fund HIV prevention and AIDS research, provide treatment education, and push for AIDS-related public policy in the United States. Faith in the darkness. As Rock Hudson neared the end of his life, he started to consider what could be out there. In his last moments, he met with an elder of the Church on the Way in Van Nuys, California, despite having spent most of his life considering himself an atheist. Pat Boone, the older, said that on his last day, he went to Hudson's estate and prayed for his soul. Before he died, he allegedly said the sinner's prayer with a Catholic priest. Final farewell. In his sleep, Rock Hudson died quietly on October 2, 1985. Although the precise cause of death was not made public, it was determined to be complications from HIV and AIDS. Although the death of their idol shocked celebrities and admirers throughout the globe, everyone was aware that he had left a lasting impact. I love him, and he is tragically gone, said Elizabeth Taylor, a Hollywood star and Hudson's friend. Please God, he did not die in vain. Legacy. There is no denying Rock Hudson's influence on American society and the film business. However, he had an even more significant influence in his last days by talking about and drawing attention to his condition. People magazine reported shortly after his death that, since Hudson made his announcement, more than $1.8 million in private contributions, more than double the amount collected in 1984, has been raised to support AIDS research and to care for AIDS victims, 5,523 reported in 1985 alone. Additionally, Hudson made the first direct contribution, $250,000, to AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research, helping to launch this significant nonprofit organization. Famous face. The world was still in sorrow for the Hollywood legend Rock Hudson, but his impact on and off-screen would live forever. With his breathtaking film performances, he had not only left the world with priceless memories, but he had also accomplished something much more significant. Actress Morgan Fairchild once said, "Rock Hudson's death gave AIDS a face." Before Rock Hudson, the illness had an almost legendary reputation, but he transformed it into a genuine and relatable experience. Never met his son. Despite leading a purposeful and happy life, Rock Hudson said in his latter years that he had one significant regret: never meeting his son. After a brief affair when he was 19, Hudson became the father of a kid called Richard. Reaching out. It wasn't until years later that Hudson received a letter from his son's mother informing him that he was a parent. He was dying to meet the kid, according to Tom Clark, Hudson's buddy, but he didn't think it would be wise to return and expose the woman. It could wreck her life, maybe the kids too. Regrets. Richard wrote to his father as a teenager, requesting a meeting. Hudson, however, never responded. Hudson admitted, regretfully, on his deathbed, "I should have gone back home and looked up my son. Maybe I brought him here to live with me. I always wanted to have a son, someone to carry on my legacy." Memory. Hudson significantly impacted Hollywood. Elizabeth Taylor erected a bronze plaque honoring his name on the West Hollywood Memorial Walk, and he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. On the Palm Springs Walk of Stars, a golden palm star was placed in his honor. Rock Hudson is a cherished celebrity, a symbol of Hollywood's heyday, and a beacon of bravery and devotion in the fight against AIDS stigma and homophobia. Speaking out. Furthermore, Rock Hudson's courage helped to confront and dismantle more than simply the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. Additionally, it was the widespread stigma that had traditionally persisted surrounding homosexuality. Gay individuals still found it challenging to discuss their relationships and orientation at that time. Years later, one of Hudson's ex-boyfriends could finally talk candidly about their amazing days together. People magazine quoted Garlington as saying, "He was a sweetheart. I loved him." Immortalized. The new Netflix drama series that adapts the Hollywood legend's tale and persona is another example of how he continues to live on today. Hollywood, a somewhat dramatized portrayal of the industry star and the nuances of his career, was published by the streaming behemoth in 2020. The play depicts Hudson when he is still a young unknown from small-town Illinois, trying to make his way in the world and beginning to understand who he is, according to Town and Country magazine. Lasting legacy. Rock Hudson left the world with something even more unique and enduring than his celebrity, in addition to many memorable Hollywood film performances and vintage posters featuring his model-like beautiful looks. In those days, it was bold and revolutionary for a megastar in show business like Hudson to come out as homosexual. Hudson encouraged people throughout the globe to embrace who they are, in addition to helping to dispel the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. Hudson left behind a legacy of love and strength that inspires us all.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon